A hazing grace, rites of passage in the world of warriors. What's up, folks? This is Justin Garcia, a.k.a. Master Chim, and I'm here with a hazing cracker.
What's up?
White boy Patrick Kelly. Welcome to another episode of The Pressure Project. ThePressureProject.com is our website. Info at ThePressureProject.com is our contact email. YouTube /The Pressure Project is our YouTube channel. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Today we're going to talk about hazing and how hazing is different from rites of passage, and how historically there was a line drawn between the two that I would argue, like so many things related to the world of masculinity, that line has been blurred.
I concur.
Right? Baby in the bathwater.
Yeah.
It's brought on, this episode's brought on by a very real reaction to a very real me wanting to, grab people by their necks through computer screens experience, which I tend to happen on occasion.
Yes, it is.
All right. So we had our promotion a couple days ago.
Yes. Awesome.
And yeah, great time. Promoted a couple of black belts.
Yeah, it was really cool.
And one of the students that was promoted, Juan, shout out, big Juan.
Yeah.
He received his blue belt, and he went through the gauntlet, and he recorded, or one of his family members attending, recorded the gauntlet experience, and he posted it online. Students always ask me, I said, I don't care, put it up there.
Yeah.
I know what comes along with exposing people from the outside to our, inner rituals and rites of passage. And this time was no different. I've shown rituals before, and I remember one of the times that we had a rite of passage was the OC spray.
Yeah.
And how, nobody's ever forced to do it. Is there peer pressure? The pressure that I guess comes with wanting to be a part of something with your friends. If you have 9 best friends and they're all going to the movies, when you're invited, you want to go to the movies.
Yeah.
In the case with the OC spray, you want to get sprayed in the face with OC spray.
Yeah, there was a couple guys that didn't know when they showed up, but they did it.
They were given the opportunity and they embraced it, and they were each told that they didn't have to. Not going to get demoted or thrown out, or
and a legitimate. You don't have to. Not a.
Well, what?
Some people think that that's one of their points of contention.
It's always a legitimate.
Of course.
Have to. Like I don't want anybody climbing a ladder that doesn't want to climb the ladder. It's one of the things that we talk about in the Code of 47. You could inspire people to climb, but you can't climb for them. You can't put them on your back and climb with them. They have to climb themselves.
Yeah.
And with the OC spray, it was picked up by this Brazilian sports channel, like this Brazilian sports website. And according to my wife, who was born in Brazil, the site that it was on was a pretty popular site for sports in Brazil. And there was this huge, back and forth. I had my wife, for like a week translating everything that was going on that I didn't understand. Yeah. And people were going absolutely nuts over this thing. And to us, it was like, it was just no big deal.
Yeah.
It was just no big deal. So let's, before we get into too many of the personal experiences, let's just cover a couple of bases. A couple of things we're going to touch on, a couple of sort of angles and talking points we're going to be discussing. Cool. Number one, the hazing definition, and I believe this is on dictionary.com. Hazing is the practice of rituals and other activities involving harassment, abuse, or humiliation used as a way of initiating a person into a group. So with hazing, we see an inherent sort of negative connotation.
Yeah.
Right? Now, one of the things that I would add to that definition to make it a rite of passage is something that is rooted in the empowerment of the individual enduring it.
Yeah.
Something that the rituals being rituals that sort of represent some of the skills, aptitude, power, ability that is sort of congruent with what it is that you're being sort of rewarded for. But it's not negatively sort of designed, when it's a rite of passage. There's one other point I wanted to bring up, one other concept that I think where a lot of people sort of get confused and they trip over the difference between hazing and rites of passage. And that's something called cognitive dissonance. All right, so cognitive dissonance was a concept sort of coined and studied and shared by a psychologist named Leon Festinger. And cognitive dissonance is the mental stress or discomfort experienced by an individual who holds two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values at the same time, or is confronted by new information that conflicts with existing beliefs, ideas, or values. Festinger's theory of cognitive dissonance focuses on how humans strive for internal consistency. So the premise of cognitive dissonance is one that I'm very familiar with. One of my own personal sort of journeys, struggles throughout my life was finding this consistency in my moral compass, my sort of ethical makeup. Who am I? What do I stand for? Examples of what a cognitive dissonance may be is having this moral opposition to the murder of animals, for food, but loving the taste of steak.
Yeah.
And maybe your entire life you didn't realize a steak was a dead animal, and you develop this, just complete moral objection to killing animals for food, and then one day you find out the steak that you eat every day and love is a dead animal. That would be an example.
Yeah.
I can run down examples all day long, but the whole thing is, I could see hazing as being something that becomes damaging, traumatizing to somebody when they're looking to sort of champion or represent ideals, morals, and ethics that they are not internally congruent with.
Yeah.
All right. So we have the, when we're talking about the loyalty matrix, we talk about open loyalty and closed loyalty.
Yeah.
Open loyalty is your identity, who you are, being incongruent with the identity of the tribe you belong to, or when just compared to another identity, right? So I have a very closed loyalty to my group of brothers, here in the school, in SIOC and in certain areas of my life. I have a very closed loyalty, meaning our identities and our goals, as my identity and goal as an individual is very much congruent with their identity and goal as a group.
Yeah.
And open loyalty is if I were to be a part of, let's say, a religious organization. I wouldn't believe what all these people believe, but maybe for other benefits and reasons, I'm a member of this group, I would have what I would designate an open loyalty.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, I could see going through the rites of passage of this group, of which I have an open loyalty with, as being inherently negative in experience for me.
Definitely.
I don't support, what they stand for. I don't support what their beliefs are. What their identity is, I am not in a sort of congruent position with. So anything that sort of has me endure any type of pressure to further my the strength of my identity as part of that group is something that would fall under the heading of cognitive dissonance.
That makes sense.
So in my readings, or research for this, I came across an incredible essay by a Professor Shannon E. French, right, PhD. And Professor French had taught for years in the Naval Academy. The course or the class was called the Warrior's Code. And I read this.
Sounds awesome.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Great way to
legit.
start.
Yeah.
I read this, and after reading it, I'm telling myself, this can't be a woman. This has to be a man. And I was completely wrong.
It's a woman.
Pretty woman.
Nice.
Feminine woman.
Oh, good.
And it was very educational for me, because it's once again reminding me the truth is the truth, strength is strength, weakness is weakness.
This is 100% true.
And too often, not too often, it's a bit much.
It's a bit much.
On occasion, I will find myself ignoring, the presence of strong women.
Yes.
Now, I don't care particularly about ignoring them, because they're not the group that we speak to.
True.
There's no comment on them, or their value. Strength is strength, absolutely. But we deal with men's issues. We deal with the plight of the modern man in terms of masculinity.
Yes.
And how it's being stripped from him. But anyway, reading this, this Warrior's Code essay, I got a little excerpt here that I'm going to read. She talks about in this one excerpt, what hazing should be, what a rite of passage is, and the difference between the two. And I quote, "With regard to their martial abilities, warriors in training should be encouraged to feel that they are capable of things that most civilians, by choice or nature, are not. What is the point of training if at the end of it, you do not feel that you can do or withstand what those not similarly trained cannot? Unfortunately, many rites of passages, events intended to prove to the participants that they can do or withstand what others cannot, have been softened to the point that they now carry little emotional significance. This was done to prevent a negative form of hazing, but it seems that the baby may have been thrown out with the bathwater. Some hazing is nothing more than a foolish exercise of petty power by one group over another. Hazing that claims the status of a rite of passage, but in actuality does nothing to make the warrior feel more prepared to face the demands of his or her future career or service, should indeed be avoided. True rites of passage, in contrast, are carefully designed to allow those who endure them to prove something to themselves. Even if they involve lessons in humility, they are ultimately intended to make the warrior feel more like a warrior, not to make those administering or observing the rite to feel better about themselves." End quote. So
that's legit.
Incredible commentary.
Yeah, it's perfect
on so much of what I wanted to convey in this episode.
Yeah.
And a couple of things she touches on, and we'll have a link to the actual essay, for you guys. Cool. You can check it out.
Very cool.
She talks about, a rite of passage is acknowledging that through this training, you're able to do things that somebody who hasn't gone through this training cannot.
Correct.
And that's legitimate. As it pertains to our gauntlet,
yes.
And we'll put a gauntlet video up for you guys to see. There's a bunch of them. We'll just pick one. We'll put a link. Somebody who's getting promoted to one of the belts in my system is basically they take off their gi top. We've had women do it. They usually wear a tank top. And they have to walk through sort of a U shape we make with all the other students that are in attendance that day. They take off the belts, all their, brothers and sisters. They take off their belts, and as they walk by, they are whipped. They get whipped once on the way down, then they get whipped once on the way back by everybody.
Correct.
They're not allowed to be hit in the face. The person who's walking the gauntlet is expected to cover their own genitalia.
Sure.
So I've been doing this for over 10 years. And I have never had one person not pass the gauntlet. I've never had one person choose to quit because of the gauntlet. I've never had one person go to the hospital because of the gauntlet. But I've had plenty of people who have never earned the right to walk the gauntlet criticize the gauntlet.
All the time.
And both internally and externally.
Yeah.
From the school. I remember just this last promotion, I had a very common joke that's sort of developed over the years. A student came and told me, oh, I don't know if I want to get any better.
Yeah.
And the joke being, because I'm going to have to go through that.
Yeah.
And I told him, choosing not to be a dick, I told him, because I can go either way.
Sure.
I actually like this student. Some of them I don't, by contrast.
It happens.
I told him, I said, by the time you've done everything necessary to earn walking that gauntlet, every single time you get hit, every single step that you take, the only thing that's going to be in your mind is that belt around your waist and the accomplishment that signifies.
Yeah. You're going to be mad when people hit you not as hard as they should.
Well,
like be,
in the contrast, that's kind of what we've seen that happen time and time again.
Yeah.
The worst two people, right, to walk the gauntlet was one was I'm not going to say either one of their names.
Yeah.
All right. But one of them is one of the coaches that's still in the school. And I love him to death.
Yeah.
But Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
He was, it looked like one of those kung fu movies where the guy's like going through like the hall of death, like trying to avoid booby traps.
That's
and stuff.
funny.
The other guy was a police officer.
Oh.
And when I tell you that it was the most disgusting display.
It was bad.
Oh, and true to form, it was at least the second guy, not the first guy. The first guy he's like Kramer from Seinfeld, so he's all over the place. The second guy, the police officer, was the typical tough guy, all talk. I'm tough. I'm, just a stereotypical, dick cop.
Yeah.
And the gauntlet just brought out a side of him that I didn't expect to see. Everybody was sort of in shock when they saw it.
Yeah, it went too far as the way it just went very, very extreme for him.
And, I guess,
his reaction, that is.
Right.
The gauntlet was the same as always, but this dude was
same thing that the women have endured.
Yeah, and the women, he took it way worse than any woman.
And the significance of the women is that they're just so much smaller,
Yeah.
Because they get hit, and women are resilient. They're physically resilient. They're not strong. But like, if you've ever seen a woman giving birth, it's like, all right, you get some street cred.
Sure.
Because that was disgusting.
And we hit them just as hard as the men.
Yeah.
We don't hold back.
Because we want to be able to say that that's what we did at the end.
Of course.
It's like, we didn't change it for you.
No, we didn't give them.
You belong to be here just like everybody else.
They earn that rank.
Right.
They get hit.
So luckily that police officer, who was a complete and total bitch walking the gauntlet, is no longer part of the jungle gym. So
true.
Good riddance.
Yes.
So in the gauntlet, you see so many of these things that are brought up.
Yeah.
When somebody comes into the school, could they walk through the gauntlet? Physically, yeah. You get somebody that's tough, they could do it.
Sure.
But one of the things that the gauntlet, shows or exhibits is a person's ability to sort of compose themselves.
Yeah, 100%.
Nobody runs through the gauntlet. They're allowed.
Yeah, they can go as fast as they want.
And it's not a test. It's not a test.
It's not like you can fail and, okay, no belt for you.
I guess, I've never had somebody just quit, and
that would be interesting.
Like, I'd probably still promote them, but that's how they'd be promoted.
Yeah.
I'd sort of freeze that in time for them.
What would they do? Like lay on the ground? Right?
No, I can't do it anymore. I'm like, all right, maybe I'll throw them their belt while they're laying on the ground. Yeah, put that on, I guess.
Yeah.
But so it's not a test. It's really just a way.
It's an honor and a privilege, really.
And when you think about what it is that we do,
Yeah.
first of all, they've gone through so much more than that during the course of earning, that rank. Everybody in my school fights. Everybody in my school does striking. Everybody in my school gets hit. So, getting kicked 20 times in the leg, getting punched in the face 40 times, like they do that a couple times a week with the sparring classes. Going through a 15, 20 minute, superficial whipping, give me a break. It's really not a big deal.
Yeah, no.
And, some guys, they really, really take pride in how they're able to, complete the gauntlet by walking and stopping and looking at everybody. You were tough. You went through the whole thing. And it wasn't an issue. I didn't expect it to be. Other
It's a
people,
lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Other people, they're going through it and they're gone. And
yeah,
it's such a great opportunity for me to sort of help them mentally reset themselves, help them, realize what they're doing, where they are, who they're amongst, and and how, look at your brothers, the sisters are doing it right with you. And so it's a very empowering experience, I've felt. And I have, like I said, over 10 years of experience doing it.
Yeah.
To where I have the data, to back up my points. I, probably, more than usual, believe in having a sort of tempering approach to preparing a martial artist as an instructor. I want them to physically not only be strong, skilled, and technical, but I also want them to have a certain amount of resilience.
Yeah, mental.
Right. If you guys have ever, watched some old school MMA, I talk about, Fedor Emelianenko. I talk about Kazushi Sakuraba. These fighters who now, an era, past, but when they would fight, they would be in absolute wars and you would never see a speck of emotion on their face.
No.
I remember when Kevin Randleman lifted up Fedor and slammed him on his head.
Yeah.
And I thought Fedor died that day.
It looked like he did.
Then reversed him and submitted him with a Kimura about 15 seconds later. So this being able to sort of control the very sort of almost insignificant effect of superficial pain.
Yeah.
It's a powerful tool, for a martial artist.
It is.
And I prepare my guys to be able to fight, to engage violence when necessary. And the gauntlet is very much in line with the journey that I've prepared for a student.
Yeah, and speaking to what you said, I've heard students say that where they're like, I don't know. And then that same student maybe a year later is getting his rank, getting whipped, and not even a peep. There's not even a question.
It's different when they're ready.
Yeah, when they're ready, they're ready.
And them not being ready at the beginning stages of their training makes sense.
Of course.
It adds to the significance of the rite of passage because it is something that you cannot even conceptualize at the beginning of your training.
Yeah.
There needs to be some training before you even feel that you would be able to do it.
Of course. We had one guy call up, though. He said he was pledging for a motorcycle club. And one of the things he had to do was get whipped in a jiu-jitsu promotion. And he asked if he could, get whipped by us. And we told him no. We said, no. Sure. If in a couple years you weren't ranked, then yeah, but now.
That's also very similar to the emails I get every once in a while offering me large sums of money to beat them up, while they're in their underwear.
In a bear costume.
I almost feel violated when I get these emails. So I send it to all the guys at the school just because it's cathartic for me. It's like, look, I'm not keeping, because God forbid somebody ever sees my email and they see these emails and nobody's ever heard of them.
Yeah.
And they think like there's this whole other side of my life.
But you beat people up for money.
So that's different.
Yeah,
so that's different.
It's much different. Yeah, we told that guy no. Obviously.
Good. But it's in the school, it's been empowering. But just like we go from the guy who's getting promoted, right, being ready, and to different degrees of strength, they all complete it. Some guys, like yourself, like many of the guys, and certainly in the upper belts, they because the way we do it is, we have entry rank belts, beginner belts,
correct,
that you haven't earned, the gauntlet yet. Then we have our senior ranks, and the senior ranks go blue, purple, brown, and eventually black. Blue, purple, brown, you go through the gauntlet.
Yeah.
And there's a difference. When you see the brown belt going through it, he looks like a robot just walking down the street. Some of the blue belts, you get a little, we got a lot of Latinos in the school. You get a lot of hips moving, a lot of, dancing to music that isn't there.
That's funny. Yeah.
But black belts don't get whipped. You see the process. So that's an interesting thing too. But going the opposite way, now backing one step underneath the beginning student, you have the outsider.
Yeah.
Right. Including the people on the internet. So some of the things that I got on the MC page were, you're what do they call me? A power hungry, not a conqueror. What the hell do they call me? A dictator. You're a power hungry dictator.
Power hungry dictator. That's funny.
So a power hungry dictator. One guy said, "Oh, this is fine, as long as you don't ever tell anybody your school is friendly and not intimidating."
What is it, Planet Fitness?
It's like, is that what we're marketing martial arts schools about these days?
No, gym
non-intimidating
what is it
and
called?
friendly.
The gym tidation? What do they fucking say?
I don't freaking know. But
Planet Fitness.
It's sort of like, no, I tell people you come to my school to learn how to be violent.
Yeah.
And not sort of crap your pants while you're being violent.
Yes. The school of violence by non-intimidation.
Violence University. If I had my way, that's what I renamed the school.
Yeah.
Violence University. But, and you see you see a bunch of people just really so detached from not only the identity of our tribe here, but then adding a couple of stages of development to the point where they understand the significance and the value of, one of the rites of passages. But what do you get? You get the rite of passage of the gauntlet during our promotions being called a hazing.
Yes.
Right? So in hazing you see in sororities, fraternities, college groups,
sure,
sports teams. There was an incident a couple of years ago. I think we had spoken about it at some point in an episode where one of the football players of the Miami Dolphins was being mocked, and he quit because he was being bullied.
Oh yeah,
by another football player. Oh. And the football player, I don't know if the established NFL guy was calling the rookie like a faggot or something like that, or calling him gay, or just typical, locker room nonsense. And the new guy, legitimately protested about bullying, and what was being done to him was so just benign. This you have to be kidding me. Students go through more than that every day here in my school.
Of course. And throughout other professions and things that happens, probies, guys. That's always how it goes.
And the guy who was doing it was, I believe, reprimanded. I'm sure one of the listeners will remind us what that is. Who those people were. But, it definitely
rings a bell.
Right. And what I wanted to do was, I have a list, a small list. How many things do I have here? I have 4 things that traditionally are rites of passage. But today, even though some of them are still practiced today, they're rooted, in a much earlier time. Traditional rites of passage that would be considered hazing today.
Yeah.
So these are things that were always done amongst, the warriors of a group of people. And if they were done today by a different group, would be completely called hazing.
Yes.
Okay. So number 1, the Spartans.
The Spartans.
Now, a lot of people are familiar with the Spartans, movie 300.
Sure.
The sequel, 301.
Yeah.
Well, at 7 years old, and this was depicted somewhat in the first 300 movie.
Yeah.
At 7 years old, Spartan boys go to what is called the Agoge. And the Agoji is their formal training to become a warrior. And they're taken away from their families. They sleep in these barracks with other boys their age. They're taught, to hunt, stealth, how to survive, military tactics. They're basically trained to become this, this soldier, this warrior, this Spartans. And aside from the experience being extremely psychologically and physically, torturous, many of the stages of their development during the Agoji require them being mocked, belittled, humiliated. One of the things that they're forced to do is steal food to eat.
Yeah.
And if they're caught, they're flogged, just like a common thief.
Correct.
So, the amount of pressure they have to go through, what's the end result of that? Probably what's widely recognized as one of the most successful military warrior cultures to ever walk the face of the earth.
This is 100% true.
Pressure to power is not a joke.
It's not. It's not easy.
It's not supposed to be.
No,
right?
definitely not.
So you start that today. We have sons. Send them off to
That sounds awesome.
They're going to be,
yeah,
just straight up Leonidas, clones, but will probably be arrested for child abuse by children's services or something.
it's possible.
So that is certainly a traditional rite of passage that would be considered hazing today.
Yeah, it would.
Totally illegal.
Yes.
Next one is a ritual that is still practiced in Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
And it's called the septic scarification.
Yes.
So why don't you read some of the points of that?
So it requires the use to be cut along the back, chest, and buttocks in elaborate patterns to mimic crocodile scales, which is cool. Now, before he can be treated as a man, the boy must be subject to humiliation in a ritual that could take weeks. All right, so they treat him badly. They actually refer to them as women, and they're regarded as women for a few weeks to psychologically toughen them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so the scarification is the physical aspect. The taunts are the mental aspect. It strengthens them physically because it requires vast amounts of discipline to go through the ritual, withstanding hundreds of cuts. And then once it's over, the raw wounds are cleaned. The scarification is complete, but their pain endures for a few days after their bodies heal.
Right. So this is another thing. I'm very hard on my guys here in the school. And, when you talk about humiliation, it's a very subjective application.
Yeah.
One thing I say to one person may mean nothing. Same thing to another person may have them in a therapist, office. My whole intent when preparing my guys is basically finding anything that can make them weak, anything that they're afraid of, anything that they see as an obstacle or this insurmountable, challenge, and taking the power out of that, allowing them to endure it, overcome it, and basically dismiss it.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the things that we've done here? The OC spray.
OC spray.
What else?
We've done
flogging.
Yep. We've done
flogging is a rattan stick, just basically, getting hit across the back, chest, arms, legs.
Correct. We've done the smelling salts, which was just something that we all.
Yeah, that
counts, but it's still people didn't want to do that. There was a couple people that were, but they did it. It was fun. What else? We did there was one thing I'm trying to remember.
We did the stun gun.
Yeah, the stun gun.
Couldn't get a LE rated taser yet, but
looking forward to that.
I'm making that happen.
Yeah, the stun gun was cool. We drilled with the stun gun.
Right.
Had to keep doing what we were doing and ignore it.
Right.
It was good. We did did we do the dog collar?
We did. Yeah,
the dog collar. Yeah.
That's another thing. We did a shock collar for dogs.
That's what it was. Shock collar for dogs.
Everybody did it. I did every one of these things,
of
by
course,
the way, too.
First.
Always first.
Yep.
And it's just another thing that it's this will scare the shit out of everybody. Let's do it. So once again, we could show that we're better than the person who doesn't train. We're stronger than the person who's never challenged themselves to do it.
Put ourselves through things that test us so that we're prepared for anything in the future. Doing the leg kicks, doing the shin to shin.
Yeah,
You
shin
know?
to shin. It's funny. The leg kicks and the shin to shin, both of them are rooted in an experience that I've had, a couple of them early on in my competitive career, where I would, I would be training with fighters. This is probably before I started coaching fighters myself. But as I was a competitive fighter in training, some of my training partners, I would see them go and eventually fight. And, those kicks that they're throwing into pads, for the months, maybe years, getting ready for, eventually fighting. Those sparring sessions where two guys have shin guards on and everything. Yeah. As soon as they take those shin guards off, and now you're kicking, somebody's leg, or you're kicking somebody's leg and they check it with their shin. Like, these are all things that I saw break people, in real fights, because they had never experienced it before.
Yeah, the real rep can't be the first rep.
Right, every single time. And, obviously you look at a check kick gone wrong, you look at Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
He had the floppy shin from kicking Chris Weidman's leg. You also see, guys like was it Uriah Faber in the Jose Aldo fight, getting kicked so many times in his thigh that he could barely stand.
Yeah.
Choosing to be picked up in between one round and brought to his seat.
Yeah. That was one of the worst things I've ever seen.
So many points right there.
That was bad.
But
you go, baby.
that was his coach.
That's his coach.
So, you see these instances where, reaffirmed, in those higher level fights, but, at the lower level, seeing guys that are just getting started, having gone through it for the first time live, and, the leakage, the emotional leakage that's occurring because of it. You see guys all the time, they get kicked and you see it in their face.
So they make that face.
Right. So what am I telling my guys when they're doing that? I'm telling them, look, we're going to stand in front of each other. We're going to, no shin guards. You're going to throw a kick, maybe 50%, which really means 30%. And the guy's going to check it shin to shin.
Yeah.
You guys are going to do it, 2 minutes on one side, 2 minutes on the other side, maybe switch partners a couple times.
Yeah.
But all the while, I'm making sure that, they're not getting caught up in some ego-filled, testosterone session where they're going to wind up, breaking each other's shins.
True. No one's going to get injured.
Right. I'm going to make sure.
Because that would be pointless.
It'd absolutely be pointless. I'm going to make sure that when we're, another thing we do, kicking the thighs, which was the infamous video a couple of years ago. Which funny. Joe Rogan chimed in on. Really beginning my I'm just done with him, and that was probably the impetus for it. You see guys getting kicked in the thigh with an actual shin, not a shin guard, and there's a different feeling. So the sucking it up, technique of in sparring or somebody kicking you in the thigh, but they have this big ass shin guard on, and you being able to basically deal with it. Yeah, that's not a winning formula. Because as soon as you take that shin guard off and you have somebody's shin bone going into your thigh, it's a different animal entirely.
You have to know what that feels like. I've also done slaps.
Yes. Every once in a while, we'll, I'll have MMA classes, the Monday Night Violence classes that people have become so fond of. I've had some times where I didn't feel like people were really understanding the nature of what was going on.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the mood, the energy of the day. Maybe it was a lot of newer guys. And, sometimes you get guys that they think it's respectful to not hit their partner during a hitting format. Sorry to punch you in the face during punching in the face class.
That is true.
And I'll tell everybody, stop everybody up. Everybody exchange slaps, 10 slaps each person with your partner. Go.
Yeah.
Boom. And the first couple are nice and easy. It doesn't take much before guys are slapping the tans off each other's faces. All right, not yours.
No. Not yours. You can slap a tan on my face if you want.
A little sunburn action.
A little sunburn, but legit.
So, everything that I do here has a thought process.
Of course.
I've never taken any pride in, seeing what I could do to somebody. Seeing, look what I'm going to do to them today. Look, on the contrary, I'm a very competitive individual. And, being that, I've sort of gone the powerlifting / Italian food route, and I'm not, competing regularly in MMA or grappling competitions. I miss the fact that I can't go through all these things, to the level that you guys are. I always tell you guys, man, I wish I had a coach like me, because the level of training the guys get is just extraordinary.
Of course, what we go through prepares us for like the fights or the easy part.
Right.
Also getting choked out. Remember we did.
Yeah, everyone had to get choked unconscious to do MMA training.
Because that's important.
All right. So when I see, these critics online talking about the gauntlet, in my mind, I'm going, they have no idea. Like, this is nothing compared to what some of these people have gone through during their regular training. Now, what happens when we have the guy who just refuses to participate in all this? Well, he just chooses his part of the crowd, and I think it's very weak. It's probably politically correct to somehow say that the guy who refuses to abide by the customs of the group deserves all the group's benefits, and I'm very careful in how I design, the business format of my school.
Of course,
because, I don't get any money ever from training my guys for fights, competitive fights. Most of the guys, when they fight, they get, shares of ticket sales and, or, the pros get actual, fight money and bonuses and stuff. I never won $1, I never won any of it because, I very, very, vehemently wish to always reserve the right to conduct the culture of my fighting crew the way I want.
Yeah.
So as soon as I make this a business where, I'm charging guys to train them and to, if some guy's paying you $500 a week or $1,000 a week to prepare them for a fight, you tell him to do something, he says no, you move on to something else.
Yeah.
And that's a formula that a lot of people follow successfully.
Yeah.
But I'm not here to train the individual. I'm here to increase the power of the tribe so that any individual could sort of have the support on their own individual journey.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
So let's go to another group.
Yeah.
And this is the Sateri Maui people of Brazil.
Yes.
So they have a rite of passage. And again, this is a young man becoming a warrior, rite of passage. And what they do is they take a whole bunch of bullet ants. Now, if you don't know what bullet ants are, look them up. Their bite is said to be the most painful insect bite on the planet.
Correct.
And a whole bunch of them are sort of put they're submerged in this sort of elixir, if you will.
Yes. Elixir of unconsciousness.
Right. And they all go unconscious. They take these now unconscious ants and they sort of coat the inside of what eventually is going to become a glove that's wrapped around the hands of the person who's going through this rite of passage. And slowly the ants begin to wake up. And as they wake up, obviously they're looking to find a way out of this, this tightly held sort of jail cell that they're stuck in. And as they try to bite their way free, obviously, most of these bites going right into the hand of the individual.
Yeah.
The amount of pain has to be, just excruciating.
Yeah, 10 minutes they got to do it.
Yeah, 10 minutes. So a gloved weave from leaves is fashioned and then completed by placing the ants in the tight openings, stingers pointing inward. So they prep them properly.
Yeah.
Once they're conscious, they struggle to free themselves from the weaving, growing increasingly anxious and desperate by each passing second. The boy being initiated has his hands coated in a thin layer of charcoal before slipping on the 2 ant gloves. He must endure their stings for 10 minutes. I guess this very ancient tribe has stopwatches.
10 moments.
They got one guy. 1, 2, 3. So the goal is to keep, and this is important, the goal is to keep from screaming or showing signs of weakness.
That's awesome.
He and the tribe members present chant and dance to take his mind off of the pain. Once the ritual is complete, he'll suffer from the stings for days, but he's one step closer to being a warrior. This process in this particular group must be repeated an additional 20 times in the following months for it to be officially complete.
That's legit.
So now imagine I'm running a high school football team.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, guys, you guys are starters. We have a tradition for the starters of this football team. I'm going to bring in some bullet ants, and we're going to make some bullet ant gloves, and we're going to go through this whole thing.
Yeah.
I'd be arrested. I'd be fired, arrested, sued probably. Sued even if I didn't get any ants on the kids. The trauma of even suggesting that I was going to do that to them, somebody's going to be damaged.
Of course.
I'm damaged.
Someone's going to have a nightmare about bullet ants.
Right. And I'm going to wind up getting sued. So it's another, very traditional rite of passage that would be considered, hazing, barbaric, illegal at the very minimum.
Yes.
If, brought about today. One last group I wanted to talk about was Saint Hubert, the patron saint of hunters.
Legit.
So during the movie Red Dawn, right, you have the whole, when you kill your first deer, you got to drink the blood.
Yeah, the original Red Dawn.
The original Red Dawn, not the new one.
No.
So the original one, Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
You kill the deer, you have to drink the blood of the first deer you've ever killed.
Yep. See Thomas Howell.
And apparently that's not the case. What it is, and it's rooted in this, this story, tale, myth, if you want. When you kill the deer, you take some of the blood and you basically mark your face with it.
That's cool.
Right. And it's called the blooding rite.
That's awesome.
And the history of this blooding rite, and the person who I was reading this article, I read it a couple of sources. All of them was saying no hunters know this, like why they do this. You know, it's just a custom, a tradition, a rite of passage. So much so that they'll chase somebody down who killed a deer, and hold them down to do this to them.
Oh yeah,
that's how it is important. It is to some hunters.
That's legit.
What it is this one Saint Hubert was in France, an avid hunter. Eventually, left. His wife passed away during childbirth. He decided to leave his royal, position, or whatever the hell he was, and move into the woods and just hunt.
Okay.
So they say one day he went to, he was a bow hunter, and he went to draw down on a deer. The deer looked at him, and a crucifix illuminated behind the deer's head. Freaked him out. He immediately, basically asked the deer, who are you? What are you doing? And the voice of God spoke to him and told him, you shouldn't be doing this. I need you to go back to spread the word, yada, yada, yada. And now what happens is a very clever deer. And now what the blooding rite became was in honor of the deer that spoke to Saint Hubert. People put this illuminated cross on their face with deer blood.
Okay.
Listen, more than one source says it. I've never killed a deer, so I guess we'll see what goes down.
Yeah, I want to drink the blood.
Whatever you're into, bro. A lot of parasites. You got to boil it first.
I want to do the Red Dawn.
You want to do the Red Dawn? Okay.
Wolverines.
So, so that's the story of another rite of passage that sort of was passed down, over time and developed into something where you start to lose the essence of why you do it. The significance simply becomes, you're somebody who's killed a deer. And that maybe has an inherent value in it.
Sure. It's
so now,
pretty cool.
The hazing, the frats, the sports teams, and even in some military units, now neither of us have ever served. And there are, rites of passages in the military. I was talking to a military friend of ours a couple of hours ago, and was asking him about this. And he said, it's a lot of the stuff that people will call hazing is really a celebration. It's a celebration of entering into a brotherhood. It's a celebration of, the culmination and the acknowledgement of an achievement in training. It's not internally looked at as something that, is, I can't believe they're doing this to me. I can't,
No, I get it.
But those rituals do exist in the military. And, we've done a bunch of research, and we saw, the times where there were groups of people with the blood pinning, right? Which is, when I think you finish jump school, or you do like 20 jumps, you get these wings, and, they have ceremonies in different segments of the military that basically pin these things on you, and everybody that's part of your group gets to pin it. So you'll have 30, 40 people pinning this on. And the person doing the interview, weak man, this was like a Dateline piece from a few years ago. A super weak guy. Like, I don't want to hear this guy talk about anything in relation to strength, weakness, men,
Yeah.
But
so they punch it.
They hit it, they rub it,
They twist it.
They basically go crazy.
That's what that guy's do. He's like, do they twist it?
Right.
Do they ram it?
Right.
It's like,
Right.
like, oh,
and
it's terrible.
And they had somebody break rank. And, this former Marine. I don't know if he was a sailor.
I think it was Marine.
I think it was a Marine, right?
Yeah.
Basically go on and say how, it's barbaric, and, it's, and, and the thing is, I don't particularly fault him. I'm not a member of that tribe, so I don't have any feelings of betrayal. But if I'm an outsider looking at that tribe and I'm looking at this ritual, why is it not a rite of passage and hazing to these people? Because of cognitive dissonance.
Correct.
And this is where I think a lot of people screw it up. I don't care if people on the outside, people on the internet look at the gauntlet in my school and say, this is barbaric, this is pointless. They could make a million different criticisms of what the value is. And it doesn't mean anything to me. But I do care if I have a guy who's going through it and doesn't understand why.
That's yet to happen.
It has yet to happen because it's something that I address.
Of course.
Right?
And people have gone through enough and been exposed to enough information that they know what the gauntlet is, and they're excited for it.
And they embrace it.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's where a lot of these groups go wrong. So, like, you'll get guys that'll, tell me, what was one guy said? He said, oh, I don't think it's bad, but why do you have the white belts, whip them and stuff?
Why are they allowed to participate?
And, I didn't even justify it with an answer because it really doesn't matter, because now what you're doing is you're basically just saying, well, if I had a tribe, I would do it differently.
Yeah, pretty much.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But if you don't understand what's going on, if you don't, if you're not a member of my tribe, it's very hard for me to even take seriously a critique of what I'm doing, when it's been so successful and so powerful an experience, my tribe for over a decade.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So,
and, those new belts are good as far as what the damage they inflict. The new belts are legit.
So, the guys go through, some physical stuff when they're going through the gauntlet, but it's all superficial nonsense. It's no damage. It's, if you get a welt on your skin and, I mean, in 2-3 days,
it's gone.
I have yet to see somebody get promoted and need to take a day off because of the gauntlet. So there's no real damage. No. There's visual damage.
It's like, I should have done that.
Yeah.
Damage.
Right. There's visual damage. There's, bruising. But aside from that,
yeah, it's nothing.
It is what it is. And, it's funny. It is cool to see sometimes when you see the guy, and this is a telling sign, and, maybe we'll have students listen to this episode and hear my take on this. You'll have the guy that'll do the representative, I'm just going to look like I'm doing it. So I officially do it, but I'm not going to hit him hard. So what you're doing is you're showing everybody that you don't agree with this.
Yeah.
You're showing everybody that I'm a little different from all of you. I'm probably better by my value system
Yep.
than all of you are being, because this, in lieu of, doing what is traditional, what everybody else is doing, I'm choosing to do this,
Yeah.
and they may not even understand that that's what they're communicating. But if at no other intensity other than a subconscious, awareness, that is what they're conveying to everybody.
Yeah, it is.
They're isolating themselves. They're saying, I'm different from the group. Now, again, if you choose to be different from the group, and I say this all the time when it comes to the school, and I think it's very informative, when looking at the design of a tribe, the schools that say, oh, we're like a family, join my school, we're like a family. I take issue with that because I think they're lying.
Yeah.
And if they're not lying, that's probably even worse, because what type of family allows somebody who just joined to have the same benefits and status as somebody who's been there, investing time, blood, sweat, and tears, for years? How could you say that the person who just joins automatically is allowed into that group? What's the value of that group? A saying I like to share is, the guy that tells me he's friends with everybody, I ask him, well, then what's the value of being your friend?
Yeah, it's true.
And if you don't have these sort of rites of passage, these levels to go through, how can you ever really separate those people who are much more dedicated to the identity of a group from those people who are much lesser so?
Yeah, or new.
Or new.
Yeah.
Right, or new. So, we have guys that have trained with us for years that don't really participate in a lot of those things. I don't ostracize them. I don't berate them. It's not do it my way or you're gone. No. The whole thing is so long as you're not, damaging the identity of the schools, so long as you're not sabotaging, the identity of the school, to me, it's neither here nor there. You're just another guy, that's taking up space, unfortunately.
True.
And I will say a lot of those guys, when you look at their decisions outside the school, having nothing to do with us, you'll see that these are guys that don't have a tribe, that don't have that group of people that they share an identity with. Yeah. I always talk about Two on Tom, a point that he had brought up during one of the times he was on. He had said, what do you believe in so much so that you're willing to die for it?
Yeah.
He's like, there was a time where all men had beliefs that they were willing to die for. Nowadays, men don't have any, by and large.
Yeah.
Of course, there are those select few, but you don't see that a lot of times. So to not have a format, a culture where the people who do more, who are more dedicated and committed, receive more benefits, more status.
Yeah.
I think it's a very weak system. You need to have these rites of passage. You need to have, these things that the outsiders will call hazing.
They will,
but they don't understand. Now, are there hazing examples? Yeah, of course. We spoke about it. Like, go to a frat and you got the frat kids. Put this remote control up your butt.
Yeah, sure.
Get naked and ride this tricycle around Walmart for 20 minutes. It's like, what is that doing other than, satisfying some power trip by the people who are leading the exercise?
Yeah.
Now, is there a possibility that just like the outsider from our gauntlet, I'm looking at that and not understanding? It might be. Maybe
they went through it. And now
maybe they did, right?
You get to watch someone else go through it. You feel that brotherhood for that. It's possible.
Maybe there's something I don't see, but I will say without the specifics, because I would need to know that if I'm going to call somebody out specifically. More generally speaking, if you don't have that identity, if you don't have that congruence to a goal or a sort of journey in significance and preparation, for becoming more of the identity, a member of the group that they're trying to work toward. And it is just a power trip, thing. Well, yeah. Now you're talking about hazing. You're not
Yep.
talking about any rite of passage worth anything.
No,
Right?
zero value.
All right. Let's get to the mantle. So
Okay.
I'm always asked online, pretty often, why do you have a green bar on your belt? People know that in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there is the white bar, there's the red bar, but I have a green bar, and the reason I have a green bar on my belt is I am I believe a first degree.
I don't know. You might have a few more degrees.
I think I'm a first degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Cool.
Please understand that is the significance that I place on what these ranks are.
Yeah.
I think where it is very important on the way up. There's a certain level where it becomes ceremonial. you
Sure.
know.
Sure.
And what my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu rank is, I'm a black belt.
Yes. You are.
But in my school, we follow my school system.
Correct.
And my school system is one that reflects the curriculum and the culture of the school. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there are maybe 40, 50% of the techniques not to be found, the techniques that we teach in my school. So, we do a lot of boxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, judo. We do things that you will certainly see Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitors do, but it is not inherent to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Correct.
So I felt it insincere, inaccurate even, to have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu rank reflect everything that I do with my students. So my students also receive a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu rank. The black belts that I awarded this last week received a black belt in the jungle gym system. They also received the endorsement of a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But we don't wear anything but the jungle gym rank in my school. So in my school, I am a master instructor level instructor. So I get the green bar. Right when you're first promoted to black belt, you get a plain black belt, and then the next promotion after that is the green bar. What does the black belt signify to me? Well, it's not really exclusive to me and my system, but to me, the black belt, the biggest thing with a black belt is they're now they could be trusted to grow the next generation.
Yeah.
They are the seeds, that can be used to build that next crop. And that's pretty much what I would say a black belt is. When you're talking about a competition black belt, you're talking about something completely different. You're talking about a sport.
Of course.
And I was just talking to some mutual friends of ours earlier, and I told them, sport jiu-jitsu is very helpful on the street. If you are trying, or if somebody's trying to rape you one-on-one in the winter.
Very specific.
That's when sport Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu
Understood.
is going to help you out, because thou shall not pass under those circumstances. But start changing the scenario, taking the handles off and
Yep.
adding another guy there, adding a couple other elements, and you'll find 80, 90% of what you learned in your sport Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class is absolutely useless.
Yeah.
There's a video going around
Man.
like maybe a month ago,
Yeah, about a month ago.
where there was a fight on a basketball court, and you had so many people saying, look, see, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu works. And it was a white guy and a black guy, right? Not really pertinent, but for contrast,
Yeah.
for narration purposes, makes sense.
Sure. Well, it's
The black guy,
facts.
yeah, started a fight with the white guy
yes.
because black people are inherently violent. You said that.
I said that.
Just
Yesterday.
So no, so the black guy starts a fight, arguing over a call. Now,
Yeah.
mind you, I've probably had over 100 fights on basketball courts.
Sure.
So I know sometimes everything just goes bad fast on the court. So especially when you're a shit talker like I am, because I got it, you got to be quick. Growing up in my neighborhood. So they start to fight. The black guy swings at the white guy. The white guy obviously does some jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
gets into like
He pulls guard first.
like Berimbolos, sweeps,
Yeah.
and then gets the guy set up for like an inside heel hook, like an inverted heel hook,
A heel hook, yeah.
and tells him, I'll make sure you never play basketball again. Like, basically told him to calm down. And eventually the black guy's like, I don't know what's happening to me right now. Like, all right, man. All right, get off of me.
He's like, what's going on?
Goddamn weirdo. But, this is happening. Two guys on a basketball court.
Yeah.
The black guy was not, getting after it.
No.
It was just the worst representation of what the majority street fights look like. But, oh, man, sport jiu-jitsu guys were like, see? Who's the guy that just got submitted into Pan Ams in 2 minutes?
Kayotera.
Yeah, him. He shared it at one point and was like, those of you that say sport jiu-jitsu don't work on the street. It's like, come on, man. Like, now, Kayotera, I'm a very, very big fan of his sport jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
And I think that's worth mentioning. I enjoy watching a lot of sport jiu-jitsu. Not the ass scooting, footsie nonsense. No. But I love watching a good gi fight.
A real.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, look at that match with him and Bruno Malfacini, I think his name is. Yeah. Great match. 2-minute match. Ends in submission. Just killer instinct. Great match.
Yeah.
To watch.
Trying to kill each other.
Yeah, but, you've never been in a fight, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe you've ever been in a fight. So you have people, like you have Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan couldn't make a baseball team. Greatest basketball player in history of basketball couldn't make a baseball team. Just because you're great at one thing doesn't mean that immediately, carries over to everything else.
True.
But you see a lot of these sport guys, they have opinions on what works in the street and things like that. And I don't buy it. And I don't buy it so much so that I created my own rank.
Yeah.
And all my guys, and there's a reason why I put up the Monday Night Violence videos all the time. Because I need people on the outside to see that this is what actual training looks like. If you're talking about being prepared for violence on the street, these are some of the formats that are inherently more intense, arguably dangerous than just simple sport training. But if you're saying you're preparing somebody for the street, you have an obligation, there's a certain level of integrity, that makes you allow that to reflect upon your training.
You've had us wear the gi and throw punches too.
Oh yeah, that's
a lot of fun.
One of my favorite formats is, I have the guys put their gis on, and sometimes we'll do stand up.
Yeah,
it'll be 16-ounce gloves, headgear, gi tops.
Yeah, sometimes a little gloves with the
ball
gi tops.
Fights. Sometimes,
it's awesome.
Go to the ground, continue on the ground.
Yep.
And the whole thing is, you had mentioned it earlier. You don't want the real rep to be your first rep.
No.
And I make sure I try to have every one of those boxes checked.
Yeah.
If you're training with me.
And the basketball thing, that guy who had the heel hook, who was in the heel hook, he wasn't about it. He was nervous. He wasn't trying to actually. They were having like a fake fight to begin with. So
right. I think the black guy tried to intimidate him, tried to snuff him.
Yeah, but
it didn't work out. But he was like, I really don't want to.
He's like, I'm okay.
Yeah,
this isn't like I'd rather just play the game.
Right.
He wasn't in a real situation. I think, and where that guy's trying to kill him, his knee gets popped, and he probably keeps fighting.
Yeah,
most likely.
Yeah. And worth mentioning.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the mantelpiece.
Awesome.
So now, pressure player.
Yes.
I'm giving a very selfish shout out to all of my students in the Jungle Gym Academies over the last 12, almost 13 years now that have endured the gauntlet. Those of you that have, and not all of them train with me still, obviously, but every single one of you knows that when you went through the gauntlet, you felt a sense of accomplishment. You felt a sense of tribe, a sense of brotherhood. And I've never, had seen somebody, maybe that one cop, but
that was really bad.
Like,
you were kind of saying, I can't believe this is happening.
Like, it was baffling.
It made no sense.
None at all. Cause he portrayed himself to be such a tough guy. But when I see, my guys going through the gauntlet, getting to the point where, they've gone through that without leakage, strong.
Yeah.
It makes me feel good, makes me feel like, I'm doing it right.
Yeah. Done your job well.
I've seen some of the transformations people have made, from the first time they walk through the doors to the time where they're actually walking through a gauntlet to get rewarded a belt. It's an amazing transformation. So I figure, it's only fitting that, during this episode, all you guys who've gone through the gauntlet, skull.
Awesome.
So now
Very
unicorn.
Cool. Yeah.
All of these people nowadays, and you had a professor, what's her name? Professor French mention this in her article, her essay. These people that are trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
The people that, it's funny. I was looking at the hazing and rite of passage and trying to find, both arguments, both sides of the fence and stuff. Every argument against the rites of passage of the military and sports organizations all came from, the HuffPost,
Of
Slate,
course. Yeah.
all of these.
The pillars of strength.
LibPro, it's okay if you're a man and put a wig on to go to the women's bathroom.
Oh, gee, yeah.
Those
are the best.
Your 4-year-old boy thinks he's a girl and that's okay. Like,
yeah.
These are the people that are championing that. So at the very least, sometimes you have to sort of draw that correlation, between, all of the positions that have come before this one.
Yeah.
And now what they're saying about this one.
Of course.
And a great indicator on how not to be is, especially as a man who embraces masculinity, look at the HuffPost. What does the HuffPost have to say about it? Do the opposite.
Yeah.
And where this is concerned, that's exactly the truth.
Yeah. Some of them are against even basic training in the military, where they feel that is barbaric.
Right. Well, they now have anti-hazing in the military. So it's against the law to haze people if you're a drill sergeant. So I can yell at you to tell you what to do. I can motivate you. I can make you run.
Okay.
Because all of that is specifically related to operations.
Mm-hmm.
But if I call you pig vomit, or I call you, a piece of shit, you could bring me up on charges.
Really?
Because that's hazing. There's no reason for me to personally insult you and offend you and humiliate you. And
yeah,
I can't call you fat, ugly, slow, lazy. Can't do any of that. Just got to tell you what to do. You don't do it, I can yell. And they say, oh, well, there's enough of an experience and pressure because these people are isolated. They're away from their family, their homes. They're doing a rigorous physical, component to the training. They're learning all this new information, all this new information. It has to be installed into their minds, and and it's all a bunch of nonsense. Because when you look at the Spartans, the Goji is the model.
It is.
Like that's how you become a Spartan.
Yeah.
You're taken away from your family and you're living in basically soldier barracks by age 7.
Yeah.
So any move away from that, you are Spartan minus X, right?
Yeah.
And then X changes depending on how much you remove yourself from that situation. All right, Pat, a hazing grace. Went over a lot of stuff. Break it down.
So you're part of a strong tribe and you are rising through the ranks of that tribe. There are going to be things that you're going to go through. They're going to be mental. They're going to be physical. They're not going to be easy. And that's the point. Once you've earned a situation such as the gauntlet, or you've earned one of these rites of passage, it's your privilege and honor to do it. And there's no backing down. There's no question. There's no cognitive dissonance. You know full well why you're there. You know full well what is going to happen. And you're 100% focused on getting it done. So as far as a strong rite of passage, these are the things that we strive to earn. And if you're not striving to earn these things, fix it. That's what I gotta say.
Well said. So one of the guys that commented on the gauntlet video that I shared on my page said, I would much rather prefer a handshake for all of my accomplishments. And I replied to him, well, you should find a handshake tribe. And, for us, it is humorous because the weak deserve to be mocked. But not putting that sort of slant on it, the concept is one that I am an adamant supporter of. Sometimes it's just not for you. Sometimes, you're amongst a group of people who are too much stronger than you are, and you don't want to strive to become that strong. You have to remove yourself from that group. You can't change the group. That's a cowardly way to go about things. You don't want to be the guy that fails and then says, I failed because of this and it was unfair. So you need to change the rules. Like they did to the SATs a couple of years ago.
Yep.
You don't want to be the one that says, I'm not strong enough, so I need the world to become weaker. It's not a winning formula. Anybody that sees any level of success these days, understand that is a complete testament to the strength of our society at this moment, that we can even allow individuals like you to exist. In times past, you'd have been thrown off a cliff. You'd have had a sword thrust into your chest. You would have had a guillotine sliding down the back of your neck. You would have had an arrow, put into your heart. But you certainly wouldn't have gotten a reality show. Thank you, folks, for listening to this episode. We appreciate you guys spending time with us. We enjoy having these conversations, and we hope that you all enjoyed all the time we put into each and every single one of them. ThePressureProject.com is our website. Info@thepressureproject.com is our contact email. Keep giving us feedback. I like getting them. We now have, we're going to have the running series of Q&A episodes where we take some of the more interesting questions and talking points and discuss them in its own formatted episode. So we do appreciate that. YouTube.com/The Pressure Project. Find our channel, watch the video, subscribe to the channel if you can, share it amongst your friends. We know that we need you guys to change the world as we intend to. And we're grateful for every little bit of help that you give us. Thank you, guys. We will talk to you on the next episode. And as always, brothers, pressure to power.